Hello, this is The Arm of the Starfish by Madeleine, Chapter 5. You must have been mistaken, sir, the steward said. I saw her go in. Then she must have left without your noticing it. Wildly, Adam looked around the plane, but his hope of seeing Polly safely in her seat vanished. Find her for me, then, he said angrily. What does she look like? A tall, thin child, about 12, red hair and blue eyes. The steward went methodically up and down the aisles, even looking into the pilot's cabin. When he came back to Adam, he spoke soothingly. You absolutely certain, sir, that any such child came onto the plane? Get the stewardess and check the records, Adam suggested. The steward summoned the stewardess, speaking in Spanish. This young idiot, he said, seems to think he brought some kid on the plane with him, and now he's lost her. He has a wild idea that she's been flushed down the toilet or something. Just another American crackpot. But check your records. Turning to Adam, he said in English, Her name, please? Polyhymnia O'Keefe. Adam stood, seething, until the stewardess looked up from his papers. No O'Keefe got on the plane. Adam burst into Spanish. He had a good deal of picturesque language from Juan and his family, and let it all out now. Up and down the cabin passengers roused from snoozing and turned their heads in curiosity. Adam thought he saw the steward press some kind of signal. In any case, the fastened seatbelts light flashed on, and the stewardess moved briskly through the cabin, seeing that the passengers, many of whom had risen at Adam's flow of invective, were seated, and their seatbelts snapped on. The steward turned to Adam. We are going through some turbulence, sir, he said, though this time in Spanish, seeming not at all abashed that Adam must have understood his words to the stewardess. You will have to go to your seat. Adam did not move. I'm going through turbulence, all right. I was put in charge of the child, and I am responsible for her. I saw her go into the washroom. Sir, the steward sighed in resignation at Adam's idiocy. No child came onto the plane with you. You saw us check the passenger list. I must insist you sit down. And in Lisbon? Are you being met, sir? Yes, Adam snapped. Then perhaps you should see a doctor. The steward's hand shot out with unexpected suddenness and strength, grasped Adam's arms, and forcibly propelled him down the aisle. He was put into his seat with a quick shove, and the belt tightened around him. The loudspeaker coughed. This is your captain. We are now beginning the descent to Lisbon. The stewardess walked up and down the aisle, adjusting the pillow here, asking a passenger to put out a cigarette there. The steward stood lounging by Adam's seat. Listen, Adam said. If you don't believe me, the blue case under the seat belongs to Polly. How did it get there if she didn't come on the plane? The steward spoke gently. There is no blue case under the seat. Adam looked down. His briefcase was there, but not Polly's little blue bag. Hey! He called wildly, looking up and down the plane. I did get on with a red-headed kid, didn't I? The steward's hand pressed against the boy's mouth as he explained apologetically to the passengers that Adam wasn't well, that a doctor would be found as soon as they had landed in Lisbon, and there was no cause for alarm. No one need worry. Over the steward's hand, Adam looked frantically at the passengers, but nobody said anything or moved to rescue him. He heard one woman say, I thought I saw a child, but maybe it was at the hotel with that priest. I'm so tired I just don't remember which way is up. The steward removed his hand. If Adam had thought it would do any good, he would have started a physical battle with the man. But of course it would. But that course would, at this point, seem to lead into worse trouble than already surrounded him. If you will stay quietly where you are until we land, the steward said, everything will be all right. He walked back the length of the plane to his post. Again, Adam looked up and down the cabin, though he did not move in his seat or turn his head more than necessary. Surely they must have heard him. Surely someone must have noticed Polly, and would come to tell him so. The rabbi, sitting with his hands in his lap and his book, evidently put away in his briefcase. I'm going to read that again. The rabbi was sitting with his hands in his lap, his book evidently put away in his briefcase. His head was back against the seat rest, and he appeared to be contemplating the ceiling. To Adam's surprise, he began to whistle thoughtfully. Adam almost jumped out of his seat. It was the melody Canon Tallis had whistled for Polly at the Hotel Plaza. He kept his eyes fixed on the rabbi, but the rabbi continued to look upward. Although Adam still could not place the melody, it was familiar enough to him. Had he sung it in school, in choir? Was it something his parents knew? So that he, in his turn, could whistle a measure. The rabbi stopped. His eyes moved slowly from the ceiling. He turned, looked at Adam, nodded almost imperceptibly, then turned away and studied the ceiling again. Adam was too upset and confused to look out the window as the plane descended toward Lisbon. He kept looking up and down the cabin, with his gaze coming to pause again and again on the rabbi. But the rabbi did not move. Adam felt, after a while, that he should not stare, that he should not let the other passengers, and certainly not the steward, know that he had any kind of communication with anybody on the plane since Polly's disappearance. He was startled to feel the touch of wheels upon the runway, to know that they were earthbound again. The loudspeaker buzzed, and the passengers were told the disembarking procedure. It would all be very simple, except, of course, for Adam. The fasten seatbelt sign blinked out, and the no smoking sign remained lit. The passengers arose and took coats and bags and began moving to the door. Adam pushed forward as quickly as he could, almost knocking into the rabbi, who was just ahead of him. As they waited to get out, Adam touched the dark sleeve gently, and the rabbi moved his head just enough to let Adam know he was listening. "I did have the child with me, didn't I?" The rabbi gave an almost imperceptible nod. At this quiet confirmation, Adam was again able to think coherently. By the time he reached the exit, he knew what he was going to say and do. He spoke to the steward with cold control. "I will have to report this to the authorities. I have taken your name and that of the stewardess." The steward shrugged indifferently. "As you like, sir. You will be yourself again soon, I am sure." The stewardess simply smiled blandly at him, as she had at the other passengers, saying, as though there had been no trouble, "I hope you enjoyed your trip." Adam brushed by her and down the stairs after the rabbi. At the passport counter, despite, or perhaps because of his hurry, Adam found a number of passengers ahead of him. He was in the middle of the line. He looked ahead and saw the rabbi collecting his passport and disappearing. Adam was shocked and disappointed at this complete abandonment. For a moment he had felt the situation was under control, that everything would be all right as soon as the proper authorities were spoken to. Now he felt blind panic. The line here in Lisbon moved more slowly than it had in Madrid. When Adam's turn came, he handed the passport across the counter, saying, "I want to report a missing child. I got onto the plane with a 12-year-old girl, and she went to the washroom and never came out." The official looked at him incredulously. "But, sir, that is impossible." "Yes," Adam said. "Nevertheless, it happened." "Why didn't you speak immediately to the steward or the stewardess?" "I did. They were not very helpful." "Oh, but, sir, the personnel is always—" Adam interrupted. "They said the child had not come onto the plane with me." The official relaxed. "Well then, sir. But she did get on the plane with me. If you will get in touch with the Canon Tallis in Madrid." "Yes?" the official asked helpfully. "His address, please? Or perhaps you know his phone number?" Adam realized that he had no way of knowing where in that enormous city the canon might be. He thought quickly, then said, "I don't know where he is staying, but if you call the English church, they will be able to help you there." "Sir," the canon said, shaking his head sadly, "I am afraid I cannot possibly help you. I will see that you are conducted to my superior, and you can tell your story to him." He summoned a young boy in a page's uniform and spoke to him in rapid Portuguese. Adam had hoped that Spanish and Portuguese would be close enough that he would be able to understand, but they were not. The page said, "Kindly follow me, sir." Adam started to move away from the window when a voice said, "Don't forget your passport." Startled and furious with himself for having almost done exactly that, Adam wheeled around, and there was the rabbi, together with a tall, blue-eyed, red-headed man. The resemblance to Polly was plain. It could be none other than Dr. O'Keefe, who came up to the window and spoke in slow, clear English. Mr. Eddington's passport, please. He has had an unfortunate experience and is a little upset. I will take care of everything. Adam started to turn on Dr. O'Keefe in indignation, but something in the older man's expression stopped him. The official at the window handed Adam the passport, saying, "Certainly, and my sincere thanks, Dr. O'Keefe." Adam found himself hustled out of the airport and into a waiting taxi. As the door was slammed and the taxi pulled off, he realized that he was not alone with Dr. O'Keefe. The rabbi had again disappeared. "But Polly," he started. "Not now," Dr. O'Keefe said. Adam looked at him and could see that the older man's face was white with strain. His complete quiet and control was costing him an enormous effort. After a moment, as though to break the silence, he said, "We managed to get your bags. Fortunately, you had them well labeled. They're in the trunk of the taxi." "Where are we going?" Adam asked. "The Hotel Avenida Palace. We will stay there until—" "Sir," Adam started. "Sir," and then he stopped because he found that he could not go on. Dr. O'Keefe said quietly, "You are not to blame yourself for this in any way. It was nothing you could have prevented. We thought getting Polly away would be the best thing, but—" Again he broke off. Adam saw little of Lisbon as they drove in through, though, in order to gather himself together, he turned his face toward the window, as though he were looking out. Lisbon was, even to his confused eyes, completely different from Madrid. Madrid was a cold city, Lisbon a warm one, full of buildings painted sun-yellow, deep blue. There were squares with fountains, statues, gardens, a sense of space and color everywhere. The Avenida Palace was an old hotel, a beautiful building which at any other time would have delighted Adam. But he was so tired now with the events of the past hours, as well as with a lack of sleep, that he followed Dr. O'Keefe like a small child. A porter took his bags out of the taxi's trunk, and Adam went with Dr. O'Keefe into the hotel. "Your passport, please, Adam," Dr. O'Keefe said, and registered for him. The passport, as in Madrid, was retained, but Dr. O'Keefe explained that this was routine procedure, and unless there were trouble with the police, they would get it back shortly. They were taken to a great square corner room with 4 shuttered and curtained windows. There were twin beds, an octagon table with easy chairs, a desk, a crystal chandelier. The bathroom was large and all of marble. "We look out on the Palace dos Restauradores and the Rue Jardim do Regidor," Dr. O'Keefe told Adam as the page put down the suitcases. "There's a rather interesting view of the fort up on the crest of the hill." He gestured to one of the curtained windows, but made no move to pull back the draperies. He locked the door carefully, checked the cupboards. "Polly," Adam started desperately. Although Dr. O'Keefe's rigid control had not lessened, he dropped, now that he and Adam were alone, the public manner, answering with one word, "Kidnapped." But why? Old Doc may have told you something of my research." "Just that it was interesting and unusual. I've stumbled onto something that is unusual, desirable to many people, and important. It was wise of Old Doc not to tell you anything about it. What you don't know, you can tell no one. Therefore, if you will forgive me, I will not tell you yet. But Polly knows too much for her own good. Therefore, Adam, I will have to ask you to stay here in this room until I return. Are you hungry?" "No, sir." "But tired, I imagine." "Yes." "Then this will be a good opportunity for you to sleep. You should answer the telephone if it rings, but under no circumstances open the door. And when I go, please double lock it from the inside. The best thing you can do now is to catch up on your sleep. When I find Polly and we get to Gaia, I will be able to explain things more fully to you." "There are certain things—" Adam said, "But sir, what are you going to do?" "There are only certain things I can do. First, I'll go to the Interpol, the International Police. But there is only so much, at this point, that they can do. then the embassy, then to a man I know and trust in the police here. But, for Polly's sake, nothing must be done wildly or without thought. Don't be worried if I am not back immediately. Adam noted numbly, taking courage from the fact that this was not a hint of a suggestion that Polly might not be found. When the older man had left, he undressed and took a long, hot bath, followed by a shower, as though to wash off the evil aura of the steward and stewardess who had tried to make him believe that Polly didn't exist. He put on his pajamas, turned down one of the twin beds, and got in. The telephone, a rather old-fashioned instrument, stood, silent, on the table between the beds. Adam looked at it and felt his eyelids sag. He had thought, while bathing, that he was much too upset to be able to sleep, but the moment his head touched the pillow, his exhausted body took over, and he blanked out. He did not know how long he had been lost in sleep so deep that it was dreamless, when he became aware, at the edges of his consciousness, of a soft but persistent tapping on the door. He had no idea where he was, his sleep-drugged body feeling that he was back in Wood's Hole, and that his mother was trying to rouse him to get him to Old Doc's on time. "All right, Mother, all right, I'm up, he mumbled irritably. The tapping continued. Finally, it penetrated into Adam's mind enough so that he knew he must drag himself out of his stupor and do something about it. He pulled open his eyes to absolute darkness. His room at Wood's Hole, many windowed and curtainless, had always been full of light. He could not be there. Where was he? Slowly, his tired mind began dredging up the events of the hours since he had first gone to the airport in New York, though it was several moments before he was able to awaken sufficiently to remember that he was in Lisbon, in a hotel called the Avenida Palace, that the windows were heavily shuttered and curtained, and then this accounted for the sultry darkness. He fumbled around until he found the bed lamp and turned it on. A bulb of wattage that would be thoroughly inadequate for reading, but did suffice to show him the face of his watch. It was almost 4 o'clock. In the morning or in the afternoon? He looked across to the other twin bed, and it was empty. In this closed-in room there was no telling the hour of day or night. The tapping on the door persisted, never getting louder, just going on and on, like a branch in a light breeze knocking constantly against the window. It should have made him afraid, alone in the dark, timeless place with someone who, softly trying to penetrate his consciousness and then his room. He should have been weak with terror, but he was too tired to feel anything but regret for his lost sleep. "Wait!" he called, shoving back the sheet, getting out of bed, crossing to the nearest window, dragging back heavy folds of curtain, opening creaking white shutters. A welcome breath of cool, damp air came in. Street lamps shone waveringly onto dark, rain-wet pavement. 4 in the morning, then. He went warily to the door, put his hand on the knob, then drew back as if the door were hot, and he called softly, "Who is it?" He half expected to hear the voice of the steward from the plane, or even Cannontal's, but it was a girl's light voice. "Adam, it's Callie. Let me in." Adam felt weak with relief, but just as he started to unlock the door, his hand drew back again. "Just a minute." He stood there in the dimly lit room, trying to marshal his thoughts. He was still not all the way out of his sleep. His mind circled and would not focus. "Adam, what's the matter?" Callie's voice came softly, urgently. "Just a minute," Adam said again. If he could have slept a little longer, he would know better what to do. In spite of the urgency of the moment, he could not control an enormous yawn. Finally, a question that seemed reasonable came to him. "How did you know I was here?" "O'Keefe always stays at the Avenida Palace." "Adam, let me in. I have to talk to you. We have work to do." "Just a minute," Adam said for the 3rd time. He went into the bathroom and splashed cold water on his face over and over and over again until his thoughts began to clear. If Callie was right, then Cannontal's was wrong. This was the primary fact he had to work with. It was not difficult for him to believe Cannontal's was wrong. But if Ken and Tallis was wrong, then so was Dr. O'Keefe. This, too, was perfectly possible to believe. Hadn't Dr. O'Keefe acted in a rather strange way at that Lisbon airport? Wasn't this whole setup of the Avenida Palace peculiar? But then, if Ken and Tallis and Dr. O'Keefe were wrong, then so was Polyhymnia. And, right or wrong, Adam was responsible for Polyhymnia. He went back to the door. Callie, I am waiting, Adam. Why are you here at such an hour? It's the middle of the night. I'm here because of you, of course, and I had to come while O'Keefe was out. How did you know he was out? I was at a party at the embassy with Daddy, and he came in. To the party? Adam's voice soared and cracked as though he were an 8th grader again. If Dr. O'Keefe, with Polly vanished, could go to parties, then there was no doubt on whose side Adam had to align himself. But Callie said, to see someone, silly. I don't suppose he'd even been invited to the party. Adam, if I can't help you if you keep me out here in the hall. Someone's bound to come along. How are you planning to help me? Adam asked. Don't you want to find the red-headed kid? Why should I need to find her? Because you know as well as I do she's been kidnapped. Adam, I'm not going to stand out here any longer. Either you open the door and let me in, or I go and you can just get out of this mess on your own. You should answer the telephone if it rings, Dr. O'Keefe had said, but under no circumstances open the door. Wait, Adam said sharply to Callie. Never had his mind functioned at such a snail's pace. He usually made decisions quickly, sometimes too quickly. At school, he had been president of student council, and often discussions had been forced on him, and occasionally decisions had been forced on him, and occasionally decisions that seemed, on first sight, to go counter to the rules. Rules are made for people, not people for rules, he had once said in defending one of his actions. If you accept any position of authority, then you have to know when to break or circumvent a rule. It's the knowing when that's important. But now he was in no position of authority. No, but one of responsibility. He was still responsible for Polly. She had been in his care when she disappeared. He pounded one fist onto the palm of his hand. He pounded one fist into the palm of his other hand. Then he unlocked the door.